Welcome to Freedom Decoded. This podcast is from us. We are Carey and Demir Bentley, productivity coaches and co-founders of the Lifehack Method. This format is where we are going two-on-one. Demir and I both coaching one of our amazing Lifehack Tribe members on the productivity issues that are keeping them stuck and keeping them held back from their highest self and from achieving their ideal life. So we hope you enjoyed this in-depth coaching session. It is completely raw and unfiltered, and we hope that you get so much out of it.
Jill, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Carey. I see your image all over the site. So nice to actually hear your voice.
Likewise.
Awesome. So, Jill, we're going to get into your background and we're going to talk about, the context that's behind everything. But why don't we sort of almost start at the end? What is it that you're bringing in today that you want to work on? What's the problem? What's the pain point? What's the outcome you're looking for? Let's start there and then we'll reverse into the rest.
Yeah. So the real endpoint looks like enough residual and earned income to transform me from 61 to whenever I need to retire. But I want the work to be meaningful. So it's about generating income so I can retire, but I don't want to stop working. I just want to stop feeling like I'm unsafe or there isn't enough money.
I'm going to tell you what I think I know about you.
Okay.
And then you can fill in the gap. So I know that you are 61, widowed, living in Alberta, Canada. You're a caregiver to your elderly father and his wife, your mom to a 20-year-old son. Curious to know whether the son is in the home or not, but give me a second here. I know that you've been doing some contract work. It doesn't feel particularly stable. It's not quite covering living costs. I know, and we'll talk about this, that you want to restart a coaching business for widows that you've already tested a beta program in. And I know that you own your home outright, but feeling like you're not quite where you want to be in terms of your retirement savings. So you're, in essence, the roles you have are caregiver, contractor, aspiring entrepreneur, and parent. Let me pass the mic to you and say, what would you like to fill in there around the edges to make sure that we're really understanding who you are? Not just us, but anybody who might be listening.
My dad's 94 on Monday. He just turned 94 and he's cognitively real switched on and quite healthy. His partner, not so much. So a lot of the care, and they're in a home in two separate spaces. So a lot of the caregiving is more overseeing the medical support that's already provided there, and then making sure the quality of life stuff is going. My stepmom has dementia. She's had a severe stroke a number of years ago. She's got mobility issues and there's some psychiatric stuff. So it's about making sure all of her complex needs are met. And my father has enough stimulation and enrichment to keep him going. He's a very active investor, stock analyst. And so he is helping me build wealth in my investment accounts.
Oh, great.
Let me pause there and just say, for context, how much of a week or a month ends up getting taken up by the caregiving role? And or is there also just more of a mental load element, even if it's not a time element?
I'd say there's three different pieces. There's just the time that's spent on enrichment with my dad and Sylvia. There's time spent on support work, like doing, changing sheets, buying groceries, getting them to appointments, that kind of thing. And then there's sort of a cognitive, emotional load related to, I want to be there for my dad. I want to be there for Sylvia. But of all the siblings, I'm probably the one that has the least stable life to work from. So sometimes that feels like it's a lot of juggling. My son, James, who's 20, is also in a transitional state. So he's a second year apprentice welder and millwright. He lives at home some of the time, but he goes off and does long assignments in northern Alberta, like up in the oil sands projects. He'll be gone for 3 to 8 weeks at a time. So I'm kind of backstopping his life more. It's more about launching him, right? I mean, believe it or not, parenting is more complicated when they're older than it is when they're really little.
Oh my God, don't tell me that.
Here, in a lot of ways, it's just the problems are more complex. Like there's estate stuff that I have to deal with for both of us. There's helping him get launched with banking and savings plans and planning.
Got it.
Life pieces.
Yeah. So I'm just going to stop it there because we'll double click into things if we need to know more. But I'm just circling back and just saying, I'm getting a picture so far of somebody who is, you've got lots of roles that you need to play. Some of them are unpredictable. So you've got unpredictable income at work, right? You've got unpredictability coming in from like maybe your son's here, maybe he's not here. You've got, end of life, last stage of life stuff happening with your father, which is not just time and effort that you need to put in, but also cognitive load around that. So this is giving me a fuller picture of like your plate and what's on it. Let me give Carey a chance to dig down into any details she's curious about or even just launch straight in.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I pretty much get the picture here. I mean, Jill's got a lot on her plate, and it's not uncommon for the stage of life that you're at right now. I mean, a lot of people are dealing with the sudden, it seems like, pressures of caring for elderly parents, while at the same time, they still need to be financially stable, and they want to, of course, be there for their children too, and provide any kind of stability they can for their children. So this is like probably the trickiest part of your career, where you do have to become more of a juggler. And it's not acceptable to just be like, well, I just will let one of those go. No, we need to address all of them in excellence. So it certainly is tricky. But the one thing that comes to mind that would be how Demir and I approach problems like this is, okay, if we have various unpredictable factors in our life, we need to create predictability in at least one of those areas, if not all of them. Ideally, it would be all, right? And then your problem is solved. But going one area at a time, we look for the most leverage first. For me, when I look at this situation, I get the sense of, hey, you're feeling unsafe due to some financial insecurity. And if that was more secure, if you were like, I like my work and I'm making good money doing it, then it would suddenly make all of your problems just seem less. Am I sort of correct about that? Or is the insecurity more relating to the caregiving?
I think at this point, the leverage point is a steady income and a steady, predictable schedule. Because this week I only worked yesterday. Some weeks I'm working 4 days. Some weeks I'm working 2 days. Some weeks I'm not working at all. Like, the hours have dwindled. So, and I get paid a daily rate. So, I got 9 days this month. It's not enough to pay my bills.
And between going and finding contract work, like say you could find your ideal contract role, or you could get your coaching business off the ground or your entrepreneur business off the ground, which one of those two feels more leverage to you based on your long-term goals right now?
Intuitively, the business is more leverage because I have more say there.
Yeah.
I get to choose the clients. I get to choose the work. I get to create the programs. A lot in Canada, a lot of not-for-profits are on really cyclical funding. So if I was to go into the not-for-profits where I'm most likely going to plug in, given the kind of work I do, each year it's kind of everybody's fingers crossed that the funding comes in. So it feels like,
it feels unsafe. Yeah, it feels like unsecure.
Can I inject an idea in here? So often we've got sort of, we're on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think in previous generations, there was a little bit more clarity internally. Now we could knock them and say that they were not emotionally intelligent and they weren't living their dreams and all that. But at least when they were on, level 2 or level 3 of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they had more clarity and acceptance of like, hey, I don't get to have higher order concerns and problems. I need to focus on making sure that I've got financial resilience. And so they were sort of more in acceptance of the level that they were on. What I see a lot with my clients, and I wonder if it's happening here, is I see a lot of them sort of existing on different levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the same time, meaning they're looking for financial security and also experiencing a lot of pain around not having meaning in their life, which is like the very highest level. And that can put you in sort of a double bind, can't it? Because then you sort of ping pong between the both ones where you get a job offer that would give you financial security, but you say, but that doesn't give me meaning. So that's not really going to work for me. And then you go back to meaning and you get a job offer that would give you meaning, but it's not paying your bills. And obviously the solution here would be to find a job that gives you both. But I want to offer into this space the idea that your next move doesn't have to be your last move. There could be a series of not necessarily directly lined up lily pads that we have to jump to get to the outcome, to get to the other side of the pond in this analogy. So what if we deloaded the feeling you're having right now of, I've got to find meaningful work that also pays my bills, and we just focused on, let's make the next lily pad getting the bills paid, and then allowed the consideration of, okay, once I'm in a job where my bills are paid and we've got some financial resilience built back into our life, that's not the end. We don't have to stop. That doesn't have to be the last destination in my career. That just gives me a platform from which to say, can I now get a job that gives me just as much income, but also is a little bit more aligned with the kind of work and the kind of impact that I want to be doing, or gives me the kind of free time where I can work on my entrepreneurial side hustle to get that up off of the ground. Let me offer that to you and see how that's landing with you.
I think it makes sense. I go to a but, so that's always me kind of resisting. So the but is, in Alberta, we have the youngest workforce in Canada. There is a real bias against age, and you're considered a mature worker at 45 here. One of the challenges I've been up against, because what I do right now for a living is I teach people how to get jobs. I teach them how to write resumes and interviewing and job search strategies. I teach entrepreneurship. I do a lot of teaching real life skills. And my experience has been the place where I'm more likely to get offers is going to be not for profit, because they need the skills and can't afford to pay for the younger workers. So I'm more likely to get stability there. I mean, because the work doesn't have to be particular work. It's just work where I'm working with people and giving them skills that help them live better lives, right?
And remember, I do know that you said maybe this funding isn't there next year, but that's a next year problem. Ideally, if we had everything, you'd find a job that had legs, that had sustainability, that had the mission, and that had the pay. But like, as Carey said at the top of this call, what if we decompose that and took them one at a time and gave ourselves permission to jump lily pads in order to find the one that gave you all of it? Or it could end up being, you've got different streams. Like maybe you do have less certain work, a little bit more tenuous work coming in from the nonprofit space, but you've also now got some cash coming in from your side hustle. And so maybe it looks like more of streams.
I would just say the advantage to your age, I know we've been discussing it like it's some kind of negative, but let's be honest, like you are not incredibly old. Like the 61 is not old, okay? Like I know you're in Alberta, you may have a different impression of that. For the rest of the world, that is not the case. And certainly not for our clients. Like we have, they're in the middle of their life. Like they have so much energy and they can have a whole second, third career at this point, right? If they want to. A lot of people do that. So I would open yourself up to the possibility that you can take all of these skills that you've learned over the course of your life already, which is a vast number of skills, and really broaden your job search quite a bit. So try to think outside the box of nonprofit or exactly what you've been teaching up to this point, and really expand your horizons, because also you don't need to be applying for jobs only in where you're working. You can be applying for jobs at, say, like, I don't know, universities globally. Like, there's a huge pool of potential employers for you. And so there is going to be an opportunity for you out there. It's just a matter of positioning yourself correctly, talking to the right people, getting the right informational interviews. And then if your focus is just like, I need to make X dollars per month, then that's your focus, right? So you're able to turn off that part of your brain that's wondering about whatever, like is this going to be impactful long-term for me? Is this going to be, exactly what I hope and envision to spend every single moment of my day doing? And really focus on, okay, the dollar salary and the hours. Like, I need a predictable schedule and I want a salary. And if those are your two main requirements, that is going to be the filter through which you look at potential jobs.
Hey, quickly, Carey, can you talk about the 2-hour job search?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was dying to talk about this because it may be strategies you already know, Jill, but I'm telling you, this is like by far the most effective way that Demir and I have found to get a new job. I don't know if it's necessarily results in like the highest salary job or whatever, like, but it is the fastest, most effective, most life hackery way that we found to get a new job, because it avoids all the traditional job search tactics, which we find just incredibly tedious and time consuming. And it just shortcuts you to what you actually want in an authentic way that involves just connecting with other humans. So it's really a no lose job strategy. So essentially what you do is you come up with a list of the ideal companies you would want to work for. And you're just like looking online, or you're using ChatGPT and you're coming up with like, hey man, I would love to get a job with these, say, 100 companies. Then what you're going to be doing, instead of looking for open jobs at those companies, is you're going to be using LinkedIn to find people who have a job at those companies similar to what you could see yourself doing. So all you're doing is finding contacts. You're just going on LinkedIn, you're finding all these people, and you're like, wow, that'd be great to have that person's job. Like, that would be awesome. Then all you're doing next is, again, not applying for jobs. You are just reaching out to those people and asking them for 30 minutes of their time so that you can pick their brain. And you would say something like, hey, I'm trying to get into your field. I thought what you do for XYZ company is so interesting. I would love to talk with you a little bit about your career path and just hear about your experience about and what you do day to day. People love to talk about themselves. And that is why this strategy works, is because you are not pitching them. You are not saying, let me talk your ear off about myself. All you're saying is, gosh, I think you are so interesting. I want to know more about you. And that is the only goal of this call. Then what's going to end up happening is, well, first of all, obviously try to come up with some point of connection with that person. It helps if maybe you attended the same university, or you have a LinkedIn connection in common, or you have something that you can go off of, like, oh, I read your, whatever LinkedIn post and you talked about time blocking, and gosh, I just love time blocking. I do that all the time. Whatever the point of connection is, that's your entryway into that convo. So then what's going to end up happening is they'll ask you about you on the call, because they are nice, normal people. And when someone expresses interest in you, they naturally want to express interest in the other person. They'll end up asking you about your career goals, your aspirations, and you'll be like, yes, I really love what you do. I'm trying to break into that industry. I think it's so interesting. And that's what I'm doing right now. And that's it.
A lot of times you can also position yourself as like, I'm also, it doesn't have to be, I'm trying to break in. It could be like, I'm also an expert who has experience with X, Y, and Z. I'm looking for my next challenge, looking for my next role, wanted to just, get your perspective on where do you think the industry is going. And, so it doesn't always have to be positioned as, oh, I suck and you're so amazing. Totally. And like, I want to be you. It can also be positioned as, hey, I'm looking for my next challenge. I'm looking for my next role. Ideally, it's X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you to get a sense of like, what are you seeing in the industry? How are you liking your role?
Yep.
Like that kind of stuff.
Or even just, I want to get connected with a great network of fellow professionals doing the same thing. And that was my strategy that I used when I did this exact thing to get it to switch careers and move across the country. What's going to happen then is job opportunities are going to open up for you, because often what's happening with jobs these days is they're getting filled before they're even being posted online, because recruiters are putting people into them, or it's people who know somebody at the company. And now you're going to be that person who knows someone at the company. And this is exactly what happened in my case and has happened to dozens of our clients. Is they'll have an informational interview and that person will say, oh, well, it was just announced last week that this other company, which is very similar, they're moving their headquarters, and I happen to know that they're probably going to be hiring. And this is the name of the guy who's the manager there. Why don't you reach out to him? And then I was able to reach out. This is exactly what happened to me. I was able to reach out to that person. He was so impressed that I had somehow figured out that he was going to be posting soon about this job position. I was the first in the door. He didn't even interview anybody else. I was handed the job on the spot.
Yeah. Can I tell you another story? So I had a client who it's called a lamp list. She did a whole lamp list, and I read it and I was like, these seem like acceptable jobs, but why don't you throw 5 to 10 sort of like Hail Mary jobs? It feels like you didn't actually reach out. None of these jobs are your dream job. You sort of made a list of things that you think were likely winners. I said, like, put 5 or 10 on there that are like, who's the dream person you'd want to work with? Gosh, who wrote the book? Angela Duckworth.
Angela, yep. Which book?
Yeah, Angela Duckworth. So my client was just a huge fan of Angela Duckworth and just thought she was the bee's knees. And oh my goodness, in like the perfect world, I'd work with Angela Duckworth, but of course she would never have me. And I was like, well, just like reach out and just be like, hey, I absolutely love what you're doing here. I'm just a rabid fan. I happen to find myself having graduated out of a job. And so I have some time. If you guys ever have a project where you need some support, I'd love to donate with my time. She sort of presented herself as a professional, but also just as a rabid fan who was like, I just want to help your mission. You guys are just so amazing. I would just do anything to help your mission. I have 40 hours or so that I could just donate. If you guys have any projects laying around that you need to move forward that aren't moving forward, I'd love to lend a hand just because I love what you're up to. And she got emailed directly by Angela Duckworth later that day. Yes, actually, we're completely overwhelmed and we're merging with another department. And I have so much. Can you get on the phone? A lot of it is timing too. Carey hit the timing, and if you do it enough, 2 things happen. One is you might just be the right person at the right time. And 2, the book talks about, 30% of people are just that helping archetype. I'm like this. Right? If somebody hits me up and it doesn't cost me a lot and I can support them and it doesn't feel like I'm going to be asked for anything, if the ask is easy to give, like, hey, I'm not asking for a job. I'm not asking for you to do anything for me. I just want to get your perspective and learn a couple things from you that would help me on my journey. Such an easy ask that 30% of people say yes for no other reason than that they like helping other people. And this is their good deed of the day. So we're not going to make this entire call about the 2-hour job search, but I want to just stop, wrap a bow on it, offer it to you and say, how does a warm outreach strategy that expands beyond Alberta, maybe is more remote and digital, how is that feeling when we do that?
Parts of it are really attractive. Remote and digital are hard right now because loneliness is a big issue I'm dealing with as a single person suddenly whose kid is out of the nest most of the time. I find I'm 100% digital at work right now. And there's some great things about that. But part of what I would like from a work environment is an opportunity to expand my social circle. So
that could be actually a great strategy too, just to have multiple strategies here, is if you are applying to work that's in Alberta, most people do want remote jobs. So if you're specifically, no, I want an in-person job. I love this return to office trend that we are seeing. This is what I want. Then that is really going to help you differentiate from all those other younger people.
But let me hasten to add, remember, we're decomposing all of our wants and prioritizing the next one. My brother's an actor, and an interesting thing in the acting industry is this concept called heat, right? An actor has or doesn't have heat. And so when you've just been on an HBO show, even if it's just a guest star role, you've just got some heat. It's like, oh, he was just on this HBO, this really hot HBO show, right? And he just finds that for whatever reason, when he's just been on a show, he gets more auditions, right? Because there's just that heat behind it. And I think that same thing applies to the job search when we don't have a job and we're feeling that need, that pull, that desperation of like, ooh, we sort of get sales breath. Like our confidence is knocked down. We feel like, oh, there's the need there. And that's not the best way to sit down for an interview is like, I'm feeling like my confidence has taken a couple hits and I'm feeling a little bit desperate. What's great about starting to get on to the lily pads is like, okay, you get a job, it's remote, it's not perfect, it's maybe not even the industry or pushing for the mission that you want, but now you're in a job. Now you've got like a little bit more of that financial security, creates a little heat. Now when you talk to another potential employer, it's like, oh, I've got this great job here, but I am looking for something that's in person, or I am looking for something that's more mission driven, right? So now you're starting to play the heat game where, and as you're doing it, you are securing the bag for yourself. It's not like you're waiting, looking for the ideal thing. Every day you're waiting, you're getting less confident. Every day you're waiting, you're getting more scared. Every day you're waiting, you're getting more paranoid. It's like, let's go get something, right? Might not be the perfect thing. Let's create some heat for ourselves. Let's start securing the bag and getting the money rolling in. And then we'll keep jumping to those other lily pads.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Just to throw a wrench in, the other thing happening right now is last week I dropped by a not-for-profit that also does employment-related stuff for specialty niche clients just to learn more about them. And it was close to a place that does seniors programming. So I dropped in there and chatted with their programming coordinator. And she's asked me to submit 2 proposals for my widows program and for a change process program for people that are dealing with loss that isn't death related. Like they've lost their career, they've lost. And so there's part of me saying, oh no,
I'd love to talk to this because this is what we were going to talk about next anyway. So this is a great segue. So what we're talking about here is de-risking your financial state, because once you de-risk that, it gives you basically runway. And when you're starting a new venture, like you're doing with this fantastic sounding widows program, by the way, like, wow, that sounds like it'll be really useful and impactful to people. The problem is you don't want to force it to work and like make it have to work right away. You want to be able to test different programs. You want to be able to submit a bunch of contracts that get rejected. You just want to give yourself that flexibility. And when there's a financial pressure attached to it, that becomes really hard and you get defeated much more quickly. So what we always advise people who are trying to start something new is you got to have that runway. You can think of it as like, I'm almost like giving myself my own seed round of investment money that I'm going to use to start this new entrepreneurial venture, because that's what you're going to need. You're going to need that time and that freedom so that then you are actually pitching from a place of like, not just what does this lady want me to provide to her, but what is it that Jill has to bring that is really going to make an impact for people? Because let me tell you, it's a lot of floundering around and splashing about. That's been Demir and I's experience, at least in creating products. It's like, oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So many things don't work. And there's a couple things that do work in the end. And that's, of course, what you move forward with.
2 things to this. I'll just do a little plug and just say, totally agree with what Carey's saying. I always just say that like often when we're in a state like this where we get, I hate to use the D word, but just get a lowercase d sort of desperation vibe going on. Like a lot of times we can over anchor to the thing that we hope will happen. So it'll be like, oh, this woman has asked me for this proposal. I can tell you that you will get a proposal and 99% chance it won't be that proposal. It'll be the 10th proposal you put in or the 20th proposal you put in. That's the one that lands. And so where I wouldn't want you to not be doing any work on submitting proposals for this, but I would want you to mentally anchor to, it's not going to be the next one. It's never the next one. And by de-anchoring ourselves or cutting that like hope thread and saying, oh, maybe this will be the one. I'd like for you to be thinking more like, how can I create a system where I can put out more of these proposals in less time And it'll probably be not the next one or the one after, but maybe the 10th, 15th, or 20th proposal will be the one that actually lands and pays off for me. And it probably won't be in 1 month or 3 months. It'll probably be in 9 to 12 months. And so you're giving yourself that more realistic set of expectations and that longer runway that Carey's talking about, which then even makes it more important that we've plugged the gap in the meantime in terms of the income. I do want to say this. Let's talk about the split in your week. If you zoomed out from a week or a 2-week period of time, I think it's completely appropriate to say, and this is why we call it the 2-hour job search. It doesn't actually take a lot of time to get all of your job search stuff done when you're, and plug for the book, the 2-hour job search. If you're listening, read it. It's a great one. If you set it up right, it's really 2 hours a week that needs to happen to keep this thing sort of moving along. And so once you sort of set it up and get it moving along, it's not taking 80, 90% of your work time to keep this thing rolling along. And it's just bait in the water. You don't know when the fish is going to catch. So you sort of disconnect yourself from that. Okay, I've got a great process set up. It's running at 2 hours a week. Let's let that keep running. That's a moment when you can turn some of your time and attention over into, okay, great. Now let's set up a process that's very similar, that it looks almost exactly similar to the 2-hour job search, except this process is focused on reaching out and pitching my program. And just like the 2-hour job search, we make a list of 100 companies. We have no idea which one we're going to land with. No idea. You make a list of 100 places that you're going to pitch. It's less about figuring out from a cold stop which person is going to buy. You just don't know. It's about, if I run enough people through this pitch, somebody's going to say yes, because just by, random accident, there's going to be a match. And so I would encourage you to look more at setting up and running processes that you feel good about. Because then even at the end of the week, if you still don't have a job and you still don't have a pitch that's been accepted, at least you look back and you're like, I hate to say violent analogies like meat grinders, but like, I'm putting enough at the top of this funnel such that I believe that if I keep running a process where I'm reaching out to, 20 people a week, where I'm, doing this much activity, it is just a matter of time before something hits. And just to put some more nuance in it, often what happens is we start through that process, you keep learning. More people you meet, more people you talk to, the more you can refine your pitch, refine your offer, the more it can give you new ideas about, hey, maybe I'm actually fishing in the wrong part of the lake here. Maybe I should move over to this part of the lake. So what's great about that is when we're having conversations, we're being active about getting ourselves out there. We're also gathering information. That's not going to pay our bills, but it does keep us feeling like, okay, we're getting smarter even as we move about this.
And it's just so powerful at the end of the week to feel like you took the right leveraged action for that week. So regardless of how many people message you back or reply to your emails or respond to your requests or whatever, it's like, nope, I spent the 2 hours that I needed to on the job search, and I spent whatever the allotment of time or number of proposals is that I wanted to get out for my business venture. And so that's what I'm doing. That's my job for the week.
That was the win.
And it becomes binary when you attach a number to it. So the number of proposals or the amount of time that you're going to spend on something. And that becomes your new definition for winning the week.
I like the idea of having the one structure support both streams. That just feels like it's one less ball of crazy I'm having to unravel. So having one structure that I can apply to the job and making that the priority, but using the same structure so it's easy and familiar, maybe in a pared down way for the other one.
That's a good point. And I know you referenced too in your intake survey that maybe you do something more traditional where you go and do meta ads or whatever. And I would definitely advise you to not do that. I would say the strategy that we're talking about right now, where you're actually connecting with real people and real businesses, that is where you want to be when you're starting a new company, because you don't know what you don't know and you don't want to have to pay for that. I would say only go and pay Mark Zuckerberg when you have something that you know converts. Once you know you have something that converts well organically, that's when you add on paid, but it doesn't start through paid traffic typically.
Unless you're absurdly independently wealthy.
That's not my problem. Well, really the idea here, what I'm taking away or hearing about what you've suggested is I'm going to make the get the pay the bills job first. That's the first lily pad, first priority, first breadcrumb, whatever.
Let me modify it. That's the system you would set up first. It's not saying, hey, you can't do any of these other things until that job is inked. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, hey, first, read the 2-hour job search, set up your lamp list, get all of your template messages ready and get your, everything going. That'll take a little chunk of time just to set up. And then from then on out, it's really taking 2 hours a week to, and so as quick as you want to go, let's call it 1 week, 2 weeks, that main system that can just keep cranking is set up. Then you can feel very free to go ahead and replicate that system and say, now let's take that system and copy and paste it over here, except now this one is going to be focused more on, offering out my, entrepreneurial offer. Then great, let's take some time and focus for a couple of weeks and set up that system. Then when they're both running, it's taking about 4 hours a week, 2 hours for your job search, 2 hours for that, still leaving you with a lot of time over to do other things. I've had people run 3 searches at the same time because they could be great candidates in 3 different industries. So they created a lamp list for each 3 of the 3 industries. They went ahead and created template outreach responses for each of the 3 industries, not at once, but one at a time, and had them all working in parallel because they realized that you can't go out there and say, I could do X, Y, or Z, because when you market to everybody, you market to nobody. So they had 3 separate messages going out to 3 separate target lists at the same time, costing them a grand total of 6 hours a week to keep up and running and moving. And so it put them in a place where they're taking a lot of activity. And again, massive action is, the great antidote to everything. What holds us back is this. I hear this in you, and I hope you'll give me permission to step into that coaching role and waggle my little finger a little bit, which can be cheesy at times. But what I hear from you that can be dangerous if the volume gets up too loud is, yeah, but that won't work because X, or I need it to be X and Y and Z at the same time, or I need this, right? So what we do often is we almost, those voices hold us back from taking massive action. And so I would love to introduce a lot more imperfectionism here. Massive imperfect action is the watchword. Hey, Alex Hormozy says this incredible thing. He says, take a level of action for which it would be unreasonable that you would not get what you want. So he says a lot of people will say, oh, if I pitch 10 clients, I should get 1, right? But if you asked yourself at the end of pitching 10 clients, would it really be unreasonable if none of the 10 said yes? Yeah, that wouldn't be unreasonable. Pitched 10 people and nobody says yes, that's actually pretty reasonable. But if you pitched 1,000 clients, if not one of them said yes, that would be unreasonable, right? And so he says, put yourself up to a level of action for which your goal would be, or your outcome would be unreasonable to not get.
I like so much of this. It blows apart the big hairy ball of crazy. And, here's a piece that works. And then here's a different piece. And do this one first, then this one, then, I've got a job that is better than no job, right?
Yep.
I'm starting from a job.
Yes.
And I like the idea of I could create this system and I could get a better job, one that pays more. It may not be the whole dream job yet, but it would be a better one. And then I could continue using that system for a next step after that, right? But I could also, once that's working, have a secondary stream where I'm pitching, because my idea for the beginning of the business is while I'm figuring out the content, refining the process, refining the structures, if I can plug into somebody else like this seniors Kirby Center facility is huge. They have thousands and thousands of clients that come in to do active living events. And their deal is, we like the sound of your program. Just give us a proposal that tells us what it looks like, how much it costs, how long it runs for. We just want to make sure it doesn't overlap with a different program. And then they take of the billing and the clients, and they just pay me to deliver my own program. And if I can do it one night a week, for three sets of 10 weeks.
You know what this is called, Jill? You're getting paid to learn. That's another thing is another role that you might want to take, even if it doesn't necessarily mean a big step up in pay, is a role where you could get into the niche that you want to be in and be learning more about that niche and learning more about the stakeholders and developing a better network. And so this is something that's, I think, undervalued, that certain roles, even when they're not paying 100% of ideally like to be making, are introducing you to the people that you need to know in the next step of your career. They're introducing you to the systems and process, because let me tell you, you come into a business, you come into our business and look at how the sausage is really made. There's a lot of stuff in our business. There's no dark secrets or anything, but there's a lot of stuff in our business that we certainly don't hang out there in public, because it would be at best boring and at worst just inappropriate, right? You get into a business and you get to see how the sausage is made. You get to see where the pain points are. You get to see where you could plug in and maybe offer some more value. You get to meet the stakeholders and develop personal relationships with people who could later become clients for your offer. So also consider, as you're doing this balance of pay's one thing, and if we could get a good paying job, hey, let's take it. But also maybe we get a job where we're no worse off, but we're better situated for that next step, right?
Well, I think based on what you've just said, there's 3 criteria for the first lily pad job. Would ideally love for it to be stable so that I just know how much money is coming in each month so I can at least budget.
Yep.
Financial stability, time budgeting as well, like some sense of I'm here during these hours doing these kinds of activities. So I'm not starting from scratch each day. And then I love this idea of target some leveraged employers that would give me a kind of a sort of a highway in to sort of the middle of where I want to go. Whether or not it's the dream job with a dream pay, that may come eventually. It may not. But if it's leading in a cohesive direction towards where I want to go, then I'm light years ahead of just, okay, pick a job, any job.
Put that under the umbrella of I'm getting paid to learn. This is a job where I'm getting paid to learn. But you got to be sure that you're getting paid to learn the right things. Otherwise, you're just snowing yourself.
One other thing just to bring up here at the end, and we got to wrap up the convo here, but one of our coaches, we typically pay a lot of especially of our junior coaches, on the hourly basis. And that's worked really well for most people. They prefer that. They want the flexibility. They want the control over their time. But this person came and said, hey, I would actually prefer to be paid on a retainer basis. And I was happy to make that switch for her. So it could also be something to consider that if your current position is a little bit more in flux and it's not stable and secure, once you do have something lined up where you feel like you have opportunities, you've gotten something else that you've been offered, you could go to your current employer and just ask, hey, any way that we can restructure my role to create the stable income and the stable hours? Because they could find a way to do that just within your current job.
They could.
Will they? I don't know, but you'll never know unless you ask.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I'd rather move into a different company.
Then great.
Yeah, there's more considerations than that.
The short term, it makes sense. And I've reached out already and said, hey, the hours seem to be dwindling here. Have you got some extra work I can be picking up? I could write proposals. There's a couple different things I could do for them. My last proposal that I did for them was highly successful. That might pan out. It's short-term contracts, but it brings in a lot of cash when it brings cash in. So.
Great. Let me wrap this and just say, we started talking about, it feels that when we had this conversation in the beginning, it was like, whoa, I've got this, but I also have this, and I have this role, but I also have this, and I want this, but I also want this, right? There was a lot that felt like it was pulling, like it was directions. What I hope you're feeling right now, and please be honest, is that there's a sense of having sort of broken down a little bit of the log jam and a little bit more linearity, not into this is what's going to solve your problem, more into this is the process that you could work and take massive imperfect action into, such that if you put in a lot of massive action in this direction, it would be unreasonable in a month, 3 months, 6 months that you had not had the conversations or had the opportunities to transition and pivot into a better opportunity than you're finding right now. And that's where I want to get people. And I want to just emphasize this for everybody who might be listening. massive, imperfect action. And that even when you're in a situation in your life that you are not happy about, and I'm going to raise my hand and say, I've been very open sharing into Tribe that some years I set a plan and just see myself knocking it down. This year has been a weird year where I've done everything I said I was going to do. I'm so proud of the hours I've put in and the leverage I've worked with and the materials that I've created. But the outcome I wanted all of that to add up to so far halfway into the year has not manifested. I haven't even moved the needle a little bit. And so many people would be crestfallen in this moment. But Carey and I really focused maniacally on the outcome was never guaranteed. We didn't have an expectation around the outcome. It is the process. It is the level of work. And we look back and we're like, I cannot believe the level of massive imperfect action I have put in the last 6 months. So in this moment when I could be, a past version of me would be crestfallen, like, I'm actually looking back and being like, look at all of that action that I have taken. And if I take another 6 months of this action, it would be unreasonable to believe that another 6 months of this action would not manifest the kind of impact that I'm getting. And often we have these kinds of years. It's happened before where even 9 months into the year, the big, juicy outcome that we're looking for hasn't manifested. And I remember a year where Carey and I were telling ourselves, well, I guess this was our down year. This was going to be the bad year. It's not going to happen for us. And in that last 3 months, it all came rushing in. Right? Because we just stuck with it. We just worked the process. We set a plan. A bad plan executed violently is always better than a good plan that keeps changing. And we just got in there with that massive imperfect action. So if you want a magic fairy dust that you can sprinkle on anything that you do, and I promise you it is going to work, it's massive imperfect action.
If I could take of everything you've said, if I could say the pieces that feel that blew it all up and makes it make sense. The first one was, what's the most important thing? That part at the beginning where you just said, there's all these streams. What's your first lily pad? The second piece that I know probably is, you're so far past it, maybe you don't get how impactful it is, but here's a system that could get you there. It's like, oh, here's one simple thing I could keep doing over and over again that will get me there. Brilliant. I know that at 61, I should know that, but I'm a slow learner. Now I know. So I can do this one thing. And the fact that it can be a system that can sort of translate into a bunch of different problems is just joy past joy. And then this massive imperfect actions, that's so much fun, right? That just feels messy. It's like eating mangoes in the bathtub. It's everything that's fun about it. And it works. And it takes all of the do it the right way kind of monkey mind out of my head. So if I can put, the simple pick, here's the 3 things. What's one area you can create stability? Go. Okay, here's the breadcrumbs. Here's the trail. Here's the lily pad across the pond. Where's the first lily pad? Pick that one. Go. Here's the system to get to lily pad number 1. Once you're getting that system going, you can then move it into the other systems and then, just be outrageous. Target 100 different companies, pick 10 outrageous jobs in those 100 different companies and go pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Don't worry about whether or not it's working. Just do it. Keep doing it until it's you've just done so much that it has to happen. It's messy, it's crazy, and nobody's writing a book about it, I guess, but makes a lot of sense to me, and it feels executable.
Good.
And it also doesn't feel like, oh my God, grind me down into the dust. I hate this. So it's fun. Massive imperfect action sounds like fun.
Love it. Carey, you want to wrap us up for today?
No, I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled by this. I'm so excited for your direction. I'm also thrilled that you're already a Lifehack Tribe member, but you've also chosen to add boost mode on top of that with Coach Kate. So that is absolutely the right move here, because now Coach Kate is going to be able to hold you accountable to those goals and those systems that we've set out today. So just don't be a stranger. Let us know, in the Facebook group, in the private Facebook group, how everything is going. And we have no doubt that you will start to see a ton of progress here very shortly.
Yeah, I want to do a part 2 of this when you do get the job, because I think that will blend so well with this. I can already see the case study manifesting in my mind when it's like, look at, this is us with her talking before she got her job. And then we recommended this and then she did it. And look, this is her. Look how happy she is. Like she got her job just by running that process. So I'm already like going like this.
The other piece I'd like to say, just because I think what I see as a new member is you guys have this amazing system, and learning the week and the month and the quarter and the year and just the day, the systems, all of that is so critical. Boost mode is brilliant. Once life has settled just a little bit more, dad's surgery, second round of surgery, then he's done. But once all that settles, the next step for me within your system is I want to get into your boot camp, because I know that that's where I'm going to be able to take the baseline life I'm in the process of creating right now and then blow it out of the water and get from lily pad 1 to lily pad 42 quickly.
And if we had just done this call and we'd sat on the bootcamp call, I promise you I'd have said bootcamp is going to be great for you, but not right now. I want you to go out and I want you to get to that first lily pad. Let's get you that financial security. Let's get you in that place of confidence, right? Let's get your systems up so that you know that they're sustainable. Then we can fold in bootcamp. So there's like a right time to fold things into the batter, right? And so you've got it nailed perfectly. But this is your order of operations.
Absolutely. And you are 100% bootcamp material. And the reason why we know that is because you are clearly understanding what we're talking about. You are like excited and jazzed to take massive imperfect action. It's like, those are the kind of people who are also going to do fantastic in bootcamp.
Love it.
Well, this one, but it will be the next one. So you got to have another one.
We'll be here. We'll be here.
I'll see you in January.
Sounds perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Jill.